Welcome to Faith Movement 25, and I've called this one Prophetic Woman and Her Dog. Now, some of you may know that after taking early retirement from head teaching, I worked on the national staff of British Youth for Christ. On average, I would visit the YFC head office in Halesowen once a week for a team meeting, usually on a Monday. Otherwise, I mainly worked from home or travelled around the country supporting teams, setting up new projects, encouraging churches to support YFC, etc. This meant I could occasionally attend midweek services in my church. A good thing, because I was often elsewhere at a weekend speaking and preaching on behalf of YFC. One week I turned up for morning prayer, totally forgetting that it was half term. You see, it seemed that most people were on holiday, with the exception of Catherine Bohr, her hearing dog Tasha, and me. Catherine was an amazing and godly person, despite being very deaf, hence the hearing dog that accompanied her wherever she went. The problem for me was Catherine could be quite formidable. So when she announced that she was pleased we were on our own because she had something to say to me, I automatically thought the worst. What had I done to displease this matriarch of the church? Well, after reading morning prayer together, Catherine began, and I held my breath nervously. I've been meaning to ask if you have ever considered ordination, she said. Now, in truth, I had and rejected the idea some years ago, instead choosing to train as a reader. For reasons I cannot fully explain, I simply never saw myself as an ordained person. I suppose primarily I had a limited view of what it meant to be ordained. The last thing I wanted was to be in charge of a church. Well, as you can imagine, my reaction to Catherine's suggestion was undignified. I stood gobsmacked with my mouth open. I suppose I eventually must have mumbled something inane, but this was a significant remark from an unexpected source. A true prophetic faith moment. In my experience, this is often how God lets people know his plans, and the same idea is communicated often from a variety of unconnected sources. Catherine's prophetic suggestion about ordination was the first one among many I received from different sources, so I reasoned I better take the hint and explore the possibility. So Catherine was a bit of a prophet. In fact, Catherine was a lot of a prophet. But you may well be thinking, what is a prophecy? Well, when you encounter prophecy in the Bible, it usually refers to a message claiming to be of divine nature or origin. These messages can come in many forms, dreams, poetry, sermons, and even dramatic physical stunts, like when the prophet Isaiah went nude for 3 years to signify how the Assyrians would strip and shame the Egyptians. You can tell he did it in a hot climate. He wouldn't do that in Britain, I don't think. Anyway, although it's easy to think of prophecy as a message concerning the future, the prophets of the Bible speak of the past, present, and the future. There is another difficulty. A prophecy isn't always clear. They're not always direct, clear statements about what's going to happen. For example, Jesus, Peter and Paul were convinced that the Old Testament prophets anticipated Jesus' resurrection from the dead. Look at Acts 2 verse 31 or 1 Corinthians 15 verse 4. But according to the accounts of Jesus, life in the four Gospels, Jesus' closest followers didn't understand that the Messiah had to die, let alone rise again, until after they'd already encountered the risen Jesus. Furthermore, while a prophecy might be uttered in one go, it isn't always fulfilled all at once. For example, God promised David a son, a descendant who will rule Jerusalem forever. Parts of this prophecy were filled in David's immediate heir, Solomon, but other parts of this prophecy went unfulfilled for a long, long time, until Jesus came along. Giving a prophecy isn't always easy. In fact, modern-day prophets can feel the same reluctance that Moses felt, but they are urged on by God's voice. I think churches need prophetic people like Catherine, praying people who are in tune with God and are not afraid to speak out regardless of the reaction. Scripture is full of prophets, some of whom have suffered because of their gift. Being a prophet can be scary at times, especially when the prophecies are not popular. We should encourage our prophets and thank God for them, especially when we sometimes don't like what they say. We need to nurture our prophets because it is one of the ways God chooses to encourage and guide his church. If you are a prophet or have a prophetic message for some individual or our church, please tell someone, because your church needs you.